Hi guys, and welcome back to Travelling Tonka, and welcome back to this very special video where we get to experience and visit some of the most beautiful sites in the Andalusian district in Spain. Firstly, we are starting off in this area of Malaga, which is not the main part of the city itself. It's further along the coastline, and this is called Playa La Dedo, which is El Dedo Beach. And it's a very quiet area and very local, but we wanted to come here because there's a restaurant that we wanted to visit, which you saw at the very beginning, but we'll come back to that in a second. But we had a few hours to kill before we were venturing on to our next destination. So as you can see from the video, there's not many people around. This is about 11 a.m. in the morning, I think, and we thought we'd take this opportunity to walk around the area and actually get a good look and see what it was like, because this is not like the main city of Malaga at all, as you can tell. This is January, so this is why it's quiet. I mean, not many people probably up and about at this time of the day anyway, but let alone in January. That said, as you can see, the sun was out. It's around about 15 degrees, so I was in shorts and flip-flops and t-shirt, but most people were looking at me very strangely and were a lot more wrapped up than I was. But as we are from the UK, we just needed any reason to escape and get a bit of sun on our skin, and this was the perfect opportunity. It was just nice to have a walk around here for a few hours and explore this area, as I'd not been this far down the coastline before. We had to wait until around about 12:30 because we wanted to eat lunch here, and this is the restaurant that we came here for. We chose this restaurant as it is a different dining experience to what you normally might have, as what you do is you just go in and get a table and they'll come and get your drinks, but then after that the waiters just walk around with all different plates with fish, tapas, etc. on it, and they just walk out shouting out the names of the food that they have on in their hands, and you put your hand up, take it off them, and that is it. And your bill is based on how many plates that you have at the end, and they just charge you for how many plates, as they are all the same price. So after our short visit to Playa El Dedo in Malaga, we took a drive of about, I think it was just over an hour, to get to the area of Old Town Marbella. Now, this is not what you would probably imagine Marbella as you're probably thinking about all the big yachts and the Port Banús area and along that coastline, which is, if you look further ahead there, it's further down there. This is probably the original part of Marbella, and again where most of the local people probably live. There is tourists there. Again, we're in January, so it's really out of season, so there's not many about, but it was still nice to venture around here and have a look what it's like. Actually nice when there's not so many people about. Just a bit of information on how we end up getting into this area. Our flights were from the UK into Malaga Airport. They were very, very cheap at this time of year. I think they were only about £35 each, which is great value. And then even better than that, we hire a car out from there as well, and that worked out at about £7 a day, which is unbelievable value. So obviously you can see now as the day's getting on, the weather's not actually that nice around here, and it got really, really windy. That's why we stopped off here in this lovely bar on the beachfront down there. I mean, again, there's not many people in there, but it was nice just to stop in, have a glass of red wine and a cocktail, and it was very, very reasonably priced. So the wine in this area, you're probably getting a big glass for around €2.50 to €3.50. It's very rarely any more than that, which is amazing. So I think this is sort of late afternoon because we'd already checked into the hotel. I don't have any footage of that for some reason, but it was called Hotel Baviera, and it was this area could be quite expensive, but that was £50 a night, and it's actually really, really nice. It had been recently renovated, so just a double room, but it had everything we needed in it: a fridge, a nice bathroom, etc. So that was probably about a 10-minute walk from here. This is actually walking along the front, the beachfront down that area. Say, no, not necessarily the beachfront, the harbour front is where we are at the moment. One thing also about Hotel Baviera is that it actually has underground parking, again, which is very rare to have parking, let alone underground safe parking in this area, and it was probably €10 a night, so that was perfect for here, because actually when we drove in it was very, very busy because it was around other schools finishing and pick-up times, so it was really, really handy to have that option. This area down here was just a street sort of off the front and heading sort of back up towards the old town centre. The restaurants along here were lovely. They look really, really nice. I mean, albeit there's not many people in them at the moment, but this kind of around siesta time, and these places were all still open, but a lot of places did shut up. And again, I mentioned we are in January, which is one of the sort of lowest seasons for visitors outside of the locals. We just sort of worked our way up and in and around the streets and just kept coming across these different areas. It's just nice to see what it's like. Normally, obviously, it'd be a lot more buzzing in the summer and in the sort of more peak times, but yeah, generally speaking, there was just locals. I didn't hear many English accents around, which is surprising considering we are in Marbella, but it didn't seem like that at all. But it was just nice to get to see what the place had to offer for when you return. We had 3 nights in this Andalusian district, in different areas, 3 different hotels. Hotel Baviera is the first one, but 3 full days really, that's all we had. And we had a lot planned in that time, so we're sort of skipping through the areas and getting as much in as we can. I mean, this was sort of like the chill out first day really, so hence why we went and had a drink there, walked around this area, then we stop off at a couple more bars, as you'll see in the video, before we go back to the hotel. But we did have a really early start. We were leaving the hotel for our next destination around about 9 o'clock in the morning, so we had to be a little bit sensible. We're just on the outskirts of the actual old town centre at the moment. I mean, the whole area is sort of Old Town Marbella, but the old town centre, as they call it, is sort of where we were heading now. And the first place that we stumble into is an Irish bar, which is here. We did end up staying in there for quite some time. As you can see, it's gone from daylight to dark very quickly. So, and there was a few English people in there. Not that that was what we were looking for, but that is what we found. And yeah, we had a few Guinnesses in there and left now, which I think was around about 8 or 9 o'clock. I'm not entirely sure, but we did have time to fall into one other place before we headed back. Even though it is out of season at this time of year, everywhere in the evening was still open. As you can see, walking around, the lights are on everywhere, but there's just not enough people to go around all the places that were actually open. But we did find there was loads of places to eat and loads of tiny little bars and big bars walking around, especially in this district. And we found ourselves in this one, the smallest one ever, but there was a couple of people in there when we got in there, and the barman was really nice, and we just sat chatting to him for a while and had some more red wine in there from that unit there, and yeah, it was a nice little vibe in there. And a couple of locals came in who we also spoke to. So this is the next morning on the drive to our next destination. As you can see, we're high up in the mountains and it was beautiful through here. So I stopped off mainly to get a look at the view across all in the valleys and that, but I actually saw all these mountain goats around here. As you can see, there was loads of them, but look at the view from up there. It's absolutely stunning. We were really high. We did actually venture to more or less the highest point in this range as we went through it and over it to get to where we are going next, as you'll see where we come into. Now, I'm not sure many of you will know this area where we've come to now, but on research for places to go in this area, this one came up, and I'm glad we did, as it's a town that's actually in the mountain range instead of being on top of it. It's called Sentenil De Las Bodegas. This is where we had to park, because obviously you can see down there that you can't really get vehicles down there unless you are a local, so we had to park right at the top and then venture all the way down the hill. This is where we were sort of coming down. It was a lot steeper than this at the beginning, but for some reason I don't have the footage of that. But yeah, it was, you sort of go downhill all the way right to the bottom, but it was a stunning view, as you could see at the start from the top there. Now, I had to look into where to park the car, because obviously you're not allowed down here unless you are a local, but at the top, even still, it's resident parking only in many places. So be aware where you are parking, because there are signs up there to say where you can't park, and there's also the markings on the pavement, sometimes marked in yellow, which also mean you can't park. We managed to find a spot which was free, so it's probably a 10-15 minute walk to get down to this beautiful area. As you can see now, we are at the bottom, and that is the mountain. The town is carved into it as you walk through it. It's absolutely beautiful. This is just like where people live. We just sort of walked around here and had a look around the different streets. There's not much in those areas, because most of it is along this stretch here, which is either side of the river, as you'll see now. Again, you'll probably notice that there's not actually that many people about again, but we were recommended to come here early in the morning because it has become somewhat of a tourist attraction and can get really, really busy later. And I don't think there's enough restaurants and places to have drinks to cater for the amount of tourists that it now gets. So we came down early. Everywhere was open along there, even though like the umbrellas and everything are down. They're all open because we were looking for breakfast. We were here around about 11 a.m. It was just so surreal walking under here. I mean, you can see there where the sort of creates this sort of cave in the mountain underneath it and through the range. I mean, all these places are built into it. Look, it's absolutely stunning. We didn't have the greatest of weather this day. I mean, it did rain earlier, but actually it stopped when we got here, so we were very lucky with that. It was still fairly warm, but because it's down in the valley, it was quite cold down there. It was around about 10 degrees, so, you know, wrap up, wear what you want at that time of the year. I was still in shorts and t-shirt, but again, most people weren't. We did venture up and down both sides just to see if we could find somewhere suitable for breakfast, but a lot of these places here were more sort of lunch meals rather than breakfast, but we did find somewhere that did you know, nice things that you'd have for breakfast, like croissants and tostadas, like which are things on toast and stuff like that. So they are there, but really the main part of this town is that side of it and this side of it. Really, as you go up and that's just residential. Again, this is another one of those places that I'd imagine looks absolutely beautiful when the sun is beaming down on it. It was just a little bit wet and a little bit grey at times, but the sun did keep trying to come out as we were coming through, so it was nice. But the water through the middle, or the river, should we say, or you know, it's probably from the mountains, but it doesn't look very clean. I don't think that's the fault of looking after it. It wasn't rubbish in or anything. It was just a dark colour, probably where it's come through the rocks and through the ranges to find its way down there. But it would have been nice if that was clean, because it would have made it look really spectacular.
That's weird.
Here I just started venturing out because this sort of tunnel intrigued me as to what was down there. I didn't know. It just looked interesting, so I just thought I'd walk down there. It turns out it is nothing really. It's just more, maybe they were going to do something down here, but didn't bother in the end. It's just a couple of garages, but you can see where the rock comes through here and how low it gets down to this sort of level. But you know, look here, this is just really cool where you're under here and sit actually underneath the rock layer. I did notice that when we was in Marbella, they did do tours from there to come here, so if you want a bit more history about this incredible town, then that would be the way to do it, because I didn't learn anything other than what I saw with my own eyes. I don't know how big the town is, what sort of people live here, anything at all, apart from it's really pretty and it's built into the rock faces. So should you want all that sort of information, it would definitely be best to do it with a tour guide. I did see them around sort of as we were leaving, so they were probably getting there a bit later. So yeah, they probably arrive here around about 1 o'clock. We spent a couple of hours here. That is more than enough to cover the whole of the town. So this viewpoint that I'm at now is completely on the other side of the water from where we first started, and it doesn't quite come across on the camera as how steep and how far down it is, but I mean, if you look down there you can see how far away the river is, and in a second when it pans round it's right up to where we parked. So right at the top there is where we parked and walked down again, probably about there. So you have to sort of zigzag your way down to get down to the bottom. We've come up the other side because this is the viewpoint, and obviously the sign of the town is there, and this gives you a good panoramic view of the whole area, and you can see how incredible it looks from here. Just so you get an idea of what direction we've sort of come north from Marbella, and it was an hour and 10 drive all through the mountain range, and it was a stunning drive through there. We, like I said, right to the top of the range. So if you're not a confident driver, probably not the greatest route to take, because when we was up there that we were actually in the clouds, so you couldn't see anything, and obviously all the moisture off the clouds were on the roads and it was very wet, and you're constantly sort of curving all the way around to get to the top of the mountain. So if you haven't done that sort of thing before, maybe it's best to go on a bus with a tour or find another way there, but it was a stunning drive. So the reason we actually came out here is because this is not on the way, but it was 20 minutes away from the next place that we were about to visit as we head into this, which is the stunning town of Ronda, situated on top of the mountain range. Now, this was the unbelievable view from our balcony outside of our apartment, which we had there. Again, for some reason, I don't have any footage inside of the apartment, but it was just on this street here, which is very, very close to one of the main attractions in Ronda, which some of you might be familiar with. So that is what we planned to do. That's why we went to Sentenil De Las Bodegas first in the morning after checkout from our Hotel Baviera in Marbella. So we got to there for about 11 and then left there, I think 1 or 2 o'clock, and then arrived here just in time for check-in at 3. So it's a 20-minute drive from there to come to this place, which was one of the main areas that we wanted to visit. Now, we're just about to walk up to this bridge here, which you'll see, which is what Ronda is very, very famous for, because it's a truly unique sort of something to look at here. I mean, look at that. You can't quite see it from this side, but you'll see it from the other side of what it's like. But there's the rock face on that side, this side, and then this beautiful bridge that covers it, but with the view that looks right down there. And to the left as it pans round, that's where our apartment is, and it was only a 5-minute walk for us to get here. So we were very, very lucky to get a place there that actually was only, again, £53 a night, which is great value for where we are situated. We got so lucky with the weather once again. It was quite warm again. We were up and around 15 degrees on this day. It was a bit cloudy early on, but the sun did really come out later on, so it was that was great. We're also very lucky in the fact that because it's January and this is a very tourist heavy destination, that there wasn't many people around, and this platform where we are stood here looking over and getting to see it would normally be heaving with people, but we were lucky enough to be able to get at the front of it and to really look down into the ravines, all the rock faces, all the buildings that are built into it. You wouldn't be able to do it that easily normally, so that was another good reason for sort of coming in January. After we checked in, we got out early because we wanted to, the daylight's only till about 6 o'clock, so we wanted to make sure that we got to see as much of this town as possible. One thing to note, driving around here is quite difficult to navigate because if you're a tourist, certain areas and certain streets you're not allowed to drive down, and if you don't read Spanish very well or don't know the signs, you could easily stray down one, and they've got cameras everywhere which will then fine you or get sent to your hire car company, and then they fine you. So you have to be very, very aware of that. I was given this information from the apartment that we stayed at beforehand, which really helped. And also parking. There's no parking in the main bit where we are here. Obviously that's the bridge there. We're over the other side and round to the right now, which you can see. So we had to find a car park down there which was open 24 hours, which was perfect for where we were. It was probably a 10-minute walk to the apartment. We didn't have loads of bags, so actually that was fine, but that was €15 for 24 hours, and in a place where it's limited parking, that is incredible value. This town was actually a lot bigger than we thought it was. I mean, from what I'd seen on previous things and other people that had been here, it looked like most of it was centralised around this bridge and here, which is sort of like the square as you come over the bridge. But as we started venturing off, we just went down different streets because the buildings are stunning. So everyone you went down, it just looked great. So we just walked and kept walking and walking. As you can see again, it's not that busy at the moment. We were coming up to siesta time as well also, which carries on throughout the year, so probably around now 3 till 6 or 3 till 5 all these shops shut up, so they were just about to shut up around this time. I think some of the bars and some of the food places stayed open, which was handy, so that kept us going while that period was on. It was actually really difficult to find somewhere to stop and drink and eat because there was so much choice. You just kept walking up and there was just, they're all very similar, so it was hard to sort of differentiate between the places to go, and you look at one and you think, oh no, I'll try the next one, but they all look really good. Mainly there's lots of tapas places around here, which is great, but they all sort of were varying, and it was hard to know which ones to go in, because at this point we knew we was going out for a big meal in the evening, so we only wanted something small like the small tapas plates, but we kept finding ones with the big tapas plates which were not ideal at this time, so then we just opted to go for a drink instead. Now this building to the right of us here is one of the oldest bull rings in the world, and we do actually go round it in a minute, but it's very, very famous, this one. I've never ever been in one in my life, so I was like, well, while we're here we'll go and have a look round that. But we just, while the sun was out, we thought there's a great viewpoint down here that we wanted to go down to, so we took a stroll through this sort of garden part here, and we didn't really know what we were coming to, and then you just get down to the end here to the most stunning view. As you might be able to hear in the background, you can hear some music playing, so also that drew us to heading down. Here you go, this is where you get to the very edge. I mean, look how far you can see across there. I mean, again, we're very lucky, the clouds were high and the sun was out, so it was absolutely beautiful. But it's hard to appreciate how high you are actually up here. It doesn't always come across as well on this camera, but it is so high. But you just get, our apartment literally was just across to the left there, so as you look down, that's the ravine and the water stream through there, sort of down where that down the bottom where the bridge is. You can actually walk around, then there's a trail that goes under the bridge and all round there as well, so that's something else that we just didn't have time to do that. So now we're at the tour of the world famous bull ring. That was the equestrian centre, which was actually under refurbishment. We poked our head in there before actually heading into the main arena. The tour, I think it was about €15, which is actually a little bit pricey for what it was, but to be fair, I never get to do anything like this in our lives, so we just thought we'll go and have a look around and see what it's like. And as you can see, the sun has come out and it's a beautiful clear blue sky. You can actually do this tour with a guide if you pay a little bit extra, but we just tend to enjoy doing these things more so that we can go around at our own pace and have a look around. Yes, it's probably a bit more informative and you'll learn a little bit more. If that is what you're after, then yeah, definitely get the guide. But really, all the basics and stuff we can figure out by reading the plaques and signs, as you'll see in a little bit, about the history of it as you go around, and you can sort of do it at your own pace. We're actually in where the bulls were kept in here, so I managed to poke my camera over to have a look, but very small rooms with a little water trough at the back there. But then they would open those doors from above and then the bulls would come rushing out down this bit as we come down, walking out into the arena. Now, something I'm not sure if I did actually catch on video here, but once we got out into the centre, we kept hearing this guy clapping, and we couldn't work out why, but it turns out this is so acoustically sound for probably opera and music and stuff like that. You stand in the middle, and you know, when you're making sounds, and the after sound of it where it's bouncing off the walls is unbelievable. It's so strange and surreal to feel it, and we were lucky again, there wasn't many people doing the tour, so we sort of went out there and tested out that ourselves. Now, as amazing as that would sound for like a musical venue or something like that, can you imagine when the bulls come stamping out on the ground through there with all the crowd around the outside as well? I mean, that must be something to witness. I mean, the tiers of where you sit and stand around the outside is so steep, so it's all very compact and kept inside. So this area now is underneath, like where you would sit from the outside, and behind it in the walls. There was so much information as you was walking around, so this is where you can take everything in yourself, and they had so much on display, which was great. And I didn't really know that much about it, and it goes back far back in history, so you can learn a few things about it and different things, but it was really good to walk around and have a look at. I'm not sure if you noticed from when we walked out into the main arena before, there's some construction work going on there. This place is so well maintained, and as you can see from inside, it is perfect. Considering how old it is, it has been kept so unbelievably well. I'm guessing that's why the price of the tour is quite expensive, because they put it all back into the refurbishment side of things. But everywhere you go around it is perfect. You just wouldn't expect to see, considering how rustic it is, you would have thought it would have worn a lot more. So if you're in the area of Ronda, I would definitely recommend coming to do this, because, like I say, it's not something you get to do every day, and it is very interesting. So definitely check it out. Just while we're here, and I've got a moment before we start wandering around the streets again, I just want to give a couple of recommendations to places that we went to that don't feature on the video. In the evening, we went to this lovely restaurant called Arabal, which is the other side of the bridge, and it looks out. In the summer you can sit out on the terrace and it looks out to the arches in the bridge, and it's beautiful. The food was great, the waiters were superb, and the wine was stunning in there. The next one is Taparia La Flamenca. It was when we were looking for the tapas earlier on, we managed to find some. We had €2 red wine and little tapas dishes for €2.50. So you literally just picked from a list, tick them off which ones you want, and they bring them out. If you want more, you just do it again. Really simple, very small, but it was lovely food. The wine was great, and that was what we were looking for at the time. As I said, we struggled to find somewhere for that, but we did. So that was another recommended. The other one, for when we got up the next day, was for breakfast, which was at the beginning when I said you come over the bridge into that square, there was a lovely place that done coffee and croissants. It doesn't feature on here, but I also cannot remember the name of it. But you can't miss it. It's the first one that you come to straight over the bridge. I can see why many tourists come to this town of Ronda, because look, visually it's beautiful. Everywhere you go it is stunning, and actually every street is different to the next. It's not like they're all the same. I mean, look again, this square here is just beautiful. I can imagine when it's in the summertime this is so lively, and I'd imagine everywhere's open late. People are out because people are outside drinking on the streets at this time of the year, so in the summer I can imagine it would be even better. It was just so nice to walk through all the streets with nobody about, and not the pressure of bumping into people and struggling to find what you're actually looking at. You can actually see what everything is when it's this quiet. It might not be that ideal for some people, but for us at this time it was just nice I like to go around and see what is in these places so that we can then revisit them in the future. Again, something that you might not be aware of, given that we are not far from the really heavy tourist destinations of Porto Banús and Marbella, is the fact that even though that tourists do come here, Spanish is heavily spoken and you don't get English as much as you would probably think you would. We're quite lucky because we know enough Spanish to get by, but and the people do speak Spanish, but it's just not as fluent as you would expect to have in your British resorts, such as even like if you go to Benidorm where everybody speaks English. It's not like that at all. It's still very, very Spanish, which I love. I prefer to be around the local people and the local culture. So here we have, this is the next morning on our way to our final destination. We wanted to come down to this viewpoint. So this is right at the bottom where I said before, where you can see, and that is the bridge up there. That is the view of the famous Ronda Bridge, our hotel up there to the right, and then the view across this stunning wide open space. Now we arrive at the final part of this trip around the Andalusian district, and we come to the famous Caminito Del Rey. Now, for those of you that don't know what this is, it was once known as one of the most dangerous hikes in the world. You'll probably see why it was known as that, but in reality it really isn't, and now it's even been made more for tourists, so it is a hell of a lot safer nowadays. So I'll just give you some information before we actually get onto the walkways. This is sort of just the walk before we get onto that. I mean, everywhere you look on this is absolutely stunning. But what you do need to know is there's 3 different car parks to get to this place. One of them being the one at the visitor centre where we parked. So I only know where to get there from here. So we bought our tickets online, and it was for a guided tour. I think it was €18 per person, which for what we did and how long we were out, took about 4 hours to do this, bear in mind. It was great value. You can also buy your car parking ticket when you purchase that, and that is €3. Then it all comes in your confirmation email and your voucher, which you show at the car park to get in. It's very important that you time it right. We were told to get there an hour before, and I can now see why, because from the visitor centre you have to get a bus down to the entrance point, which they only run every half an hour. So it's on the hour and every half an hour, which we didn't actually know at the time, so you've got to make sure you time it right to get down to the starting point. Oh, and the bus is €2.50 each way, and you cannot pay in card for that. You have to pay in cash, so remember to bring that with you. So you would have seen the tunnel that we came in at the very, very beginning. That is the start point, but you do not actually get dropped off there. Down the road, about 250 metres is where you get dropped, and if you do not read the sign, you will not know which direction to walk in. So just bear that in mind when you get dropped off, and that tunnel is where you should be aiming to go through. So once you get into the tunnel, you think you're actually at the start where we are now. No, you're not. You have to walk another 1,500 metres, not all the way through the tunnel. The tunnel's probably only about 200, but another 1,300 metres after that. And there's not many signs to tell you where to go, but you just follow the path and it will lead you down to the actual start point. That's where they organise you into your groups, and that's where they put you with your guides, and that is actually the official start of the tour. So just bear that in mind. You see, that's why you need to be at the visitor centre an hour before, because we literally got to our starting point just before 1 o'clock, which was our allocated time slot. Now I've started distracting you with all this information that you'll need before you start, because as you can see we have started on the sort of face of the walls walk, and you can see how high we are up there. You'll also notice that we have helmets on. That is mandatory. You have to do that at the very beginning. You're not allowed to take them off anywhere on the way round at all, so just bear that in mind as well. You'll also get given a audio headset so that the guide who is at the front can relay all the information and speak to you as we go round. Now at the moment it probably just seems like an ordinary walk through the ravines and through the mountains. You can see sort of like the path and the thing that we're on now, that is the new one. It all looks very safe and that, but as we go further on you'll see how the old one was and what it was like and why it was known to be dangerous. I mean, again, probably doesn't do it justice as to how high we are up here, but it is incredibly high. You can probably hear the wind, so that will give you an idea of how it comes through there. But if you look there, look, the sort of path trail that we're walking around, that is what it's on. It's on sort of stilts dug into the wall just above it, but underneath that is where the old walk went, and it was nothing like this. I don't even believe some parts of it had handrails. You actually had to be connected with a harness to a cable in the wall and walk on it, and at some point you'll see exactly how rickety the old one will be. I think that only stopped about 10 years ago. I think this new one's only been in place for that long. He did tell us, but I can't remember the exact date. As much as this hike was all sort of on the same level for most parts, there was a lot of ups and downs at the beginning and at the end. It is quite tough, and like I say, it's 4 hours, but the guide that we had was unbelievable. He's English, it was an English speaking tour, but most people on the tour weren't English. They were from all over the world. He was brilliant. He kept us entertained, because some of the information that you receive probably is not that interesting to some people, but he did it in such a way that it was really, really engaging, and I could not recommend him highly enough. He was very impressive. Just while you see that bridge there, that was a crossing point at the old tours. I mean, you can see it doesn't look very safe. It doesn't really have any handrails or anything like that. People used to cross that to get to the other side. As you look over as well, we did see a train pass when we was there, but for some reason I missed it. This rail line goes all the way from Malaga to Sevilla. Now that is something that we definitely want to do one time soon, because I can imagine the route it takes through all these mountains, and especially through this Caminito Del Rey, would be absolutely unbelievable viewing. Just back on the guide as well, I can understand why he probably was really good at his job, because he has been doing this for over 20 years. So I'd imagine he's had to sort of emphasise his stories a little bit to keep it interesting, not only for us, for himself. Oh, one more thing to note on this walk, there is nowhere to get drinks or food on the way round on the walk, only at the start and the beginning. So make sure you take plenty of water or whatever drink you want with you, and if you need to take food with you as well, make sure you have it in your backpack, because you won't be getting anything on the way around. That also goes for, there's no toilets either, only at the start and at the end. So again, make sure you go before you start the walk. Once again, I don't have any footage from the last hotel that we stayed at, but we've not actually got to it yet. We left Ronda and came straight here, but after here we stayed somewhere in between here and Malaga airport, because we were flying very early the next day. We stayed in a place called Villafranco de Guadajoche, and it was a lovely little town, and we had a view of the mountains, and we were right in the middle of it. And once again, it was only £55 a night, so it was probably, I'd say, 40 minutes from here after we left. And then when we woke up in the morning, it was out of the town onto the motorway and straight to the airport, and you were there in like 25 minutes. So that's a good recommendation if you was to have a hotel in this area. Oh, and location-wise, the Caminito Del Rey was just over an hour from where we were staying in Ronda, so that'll sort of give you some idea as to where we are now. Now, this part of the hike is the most impressive and sort of like the finale, but look at you've got the top bridge that we are walking around, which you can see, but look just there to the left and underneath. That is the old walkway, what they used to do the tours on, probably only 10 years ago. I mean, look how unsafe and dangerous that looks. And there might have been pillars for handrails, but from what I've seen, there wasn't. But that is what it was. And then they've built this new one on top of it. It felt incredibly safe, the one we're on, even though it is just slatted panels and it is still on stilts and wire cables around it. But again, that is so much higher than you realise when you are up here. It's more the fact that when you've got your camera out or your phone out and you're trying to record stuff, that's when you've got to be careful, because there's sudden wind gusts that hit you and can take it out your hand. So that's what you have to be careful of. As you can see, there's a glass panel where you can look down. That is the famous bridge and the view through the water, what you might have seen if you know about this place. I mean, what I've shown you here is just a snapshot of the height, because like I say, it's 3 to 4 hours you're around there, but I thought I'd just pick out the nice bits. I mean, the scenery is unbelievable. I mean, all the rocks, even if you're not into that sort of thing, it's still fascinating. And as you can see there, it is just stunning. When you come around this corner, this like gives you an idea of where the walkway goes, and sort of is intricately built into the mountain. It's unbelievable, and you can see from how small it looks on there as to how big the actual ranges are. It's hard to put it in perspective, but this does actually give you a good version of that. The old one is obviously the one below underneath. I mean, I'm not sure how clearly it comes out, but you can see there the old one there. The one we're walking on is the new, safer one above it. I mean, when we walk round the corner here, you actually do see exactly what the old one was like. This is not just for tourists either. This is what the miners used to use. That was their way of getting in and around. I mean, look at that there. I mean, that's just a certain death if you've gone down there. This point round here, though, was where you really got to see everything in real detail and close up, and exactly what it was like. So sort of just before you come to the final bridge to cross over, it was really good to see this bit. You'll see that there's two bridges. There's the new bridge, and then that other one is the old bridge, which they would have used to cross, which we do pass as we come around the corner here. At the start of this section, just round the corner, there was security, and just before you go on the bridge also there is security, because you're only allowed so many people on it at one time, which is a little bit concerning. As you can see there, that's the old walkway. This is the new one as we cross now, and if you look, you can see how windy it is coming through that ravine. I mean, the view is absolutely unbelievable, but I was trying to take that in record, and also I was a little bit scared because that bridge is so wobbly. It doesn't look like it there, but when you are on it, it is really, really wobbly. Hence, I think it's 10 people maximum, but you can see there on the front how windy it is, so that was quite terrifying in itself, and you just sort of want to shuffle across quickly. As you sort of come to the other side of it again, you can see the pathway and the old one as you go around the corner, but you get to enjoy the stunning views for the final time around here. But you do all this and you do this walkway, and that is not the end of it. When you finish from here, it probably takes another 20 to 30 minutes to walk back, and by that time you are quite tired and your legs are gone, and there's a lot of up and down on this last bit as well, so just bear that in mind when you get to that. It is nice when you reach the end though, because you end up in a little town called El Churro, which is famous for where the churros came from, and there's stalls selling them there, along with some lovely brewery type beer ales down there as well. So I had one of those and some churros, and there's a few other things down there as well, and that's where you return your helmets and sort of finish your tour off. But it's quite a nice end to it. Also, when you're down there, that is also where you'll pick up the bus to get back to the visitor centre. So you'll see a lot of people gathering, and you'll see the bus. They're quite clearly signposted, so it's not that difficult to find. Now, I hope that you've enjoyed these visits around some of the most beautiful areas and regions in the Andalusian district, and it maybe opened your eyes up to some places that you might not have known of, especially if you're in Malaga, because these are all reachable within 1 hour of Malaga, Marbella, etc. So I highly recommend doing some of these if you are in this area, because it was truly remarkable. Thanks again for watching it, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon in the next ones. Bye for now.